Welcome to the Flying Octopus Podcast, offering a new perspective on Red Wings hockey, as well as all the important news from around the NHL. And now, here are your hosts, Tony Wolak, Devin Little, and Evan Sabrin.
All right, guys, the streak has finally ended, and it's been a bit here for Flying Octopus. The Red Wings finally won on the night that we record. Woohoo! It's I thought for a while, and Tony said it too, I thought we were cursing this team, but tonight was 3 wins in a row for the Red Wings in a chippy little game that we saw tonight, and it's not a bad win. We'll take it. I'm not sure that it was pretty enough, but we'll take it. Welcome to episode 8 of the Flying Octopus. I'm your co-host, Evan Sabrin, joined by my partners in crime, George Malik, Devin Little, and Cameron Fry from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Oh, that's Tony, man. I'm sorry, dude. I had to go there, man. The shirt did it for you. Before we get started, guys, tonight, I'd like to remind you where to find us. YouTube at the Flying Octopod. Follow us on Twitter and Threads at Flying Octopod, and listen to us on iTunes and Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Guys, again, tonight was another night where the Red Wings were completely bullied around and outshot, and somehow still pulled out a win for the 3rd win in a row. It was a kind of a crazy week from an offensive standpoint. I still think the Red Wings are trying to get it all together. But tonight was another night where the Red Wings were almost outshot 2-1 again. So I want to start with you, Tony, and recapping this week and like what we saw. But is this offense or lack of offensive production, although they did get 5 tonight, but is it concerning to you? Is it too early to still be concerned? Because I think we got a decent sample size right now, and the way this team is giving up chances is concerning. And I want to know your thoughts on what you saw tonight, and also flash back to earlier this week with the Islanders, and even last week with the Predators.
Yeah. So when I'm watching these games, like one thing I'm looking for is just the high danger chances against at 5-on-5 and. Honestly, like, yes, the Red Wings have won the last 3 games. They beat Nashville on Saturday. Saturday, 5-2. They beat the Islanders on Tuesday during the Frozen Frenzy, 1-0, and Devils tonight, 5-3. As you mentioned, they were outshot in all of those games. However, I am really not concerned defensively about this team because they're kind of following the same game plan as they did last year, right? It's the bend but don't break defense. So if you look at the 3 games this week, yes, the high danger chances against Nashville skewed towards Nashville at 5-on-5. That shouldn't happen. But if you look at the Islanders game, it was actually 2-2 in terms of 5-on-5 high danger chances for 2 high danger chances for both teams. The Red Wings only had 11 shots, but 1 went in. One of their high danger chances went in, and otherwise they stifled the Islanders' offense. They also got stifled offensively by the Islanders' defense, which is their high effort, high octane shutdown game that Patrick Waugh runs. That's fine. They still won. Not a big deal. Alex Lyon bailed him out, which is something that we didn't get a lot of last year in terms of goalies blowing the team out. But again tonight, the Devils outshot the Red Wings 40-20. Devils did win the high danger chances for. It was 8-3 per natural stat trick at 5-on-5, but if you kind of extrapolate that across a 60-minute time frame for just 5-on-5, that's roughly 10 high danger chances for the Devils, and it's less for the Red Wings. But defensively, that's where you want to be if you're the Red Wings, about 10 high danger chances against per 60 minutes of 5-on-5. Last year, the Red Wings allowed 11.1 high danger chances against per 60 minutes of 5-on-5, and that was 14th best in the league. And if they're doing better than that and winning games, then I'm not concerned about their defensive effort. Shot totals, whatever, not a big deal. As long as they're kept to the outside, they're low or medium danger, their goalies can handle it. That's their job. Offensively, yeah, sure. I would have liked the Red Wings to get some more high danger chances but we won, scored 5 goals, 2 were on the power play. Team looked a lot more, I don't know. There was more effort. There was more, there's just better quality of play at the different levels. Penalty kill aside, we'll get into that a little bit more later. But overall, defensively, I'm not concerned whatsoever. Offensively, yeah, they should probably be generating a little bit more at 5-on-5.
Yeah, I think just to jump in here, I think I'm very conflicted about this team. I think when you've won 4 of your first 7 games, that's good. I mean, that's a playoff series, right? That's a playoff series win at that too. Um, and with where they're at, I think we can all confidently say that they have room to improve. This is definitely not where you want them to be in March. So for them to have room to improve while still getting good results, that's going to be encouraging. I think, I mean, fresh off of this New Jersey game, that's my takeaway is sloppy. And honestly, there are definitely spurts throughout the last week where honestly just not very encouraging play, but they're still getting at the end of the day, a W is a W, and that's what you want. I don't care if you're getting outshot 40-10 or you're out shooting your opponent 50-1 or whatever. As long as you win, that's what the point of any sport is get that W. So I think without getting too deep into this, yeah, there's a lot of areas I would like to see them improve sooner rather than later. But if they can kind of continue this thing where they're maybe not at their best, but they still get ideal results, what more can you ask for, right? This isn't we're going into this season knowing that they're not a cup contender. We're not expecting that of them. But if they can just kind of get enough things right to stay in the mix and eke out that playoff spot, I mean, that's kind of what they're doing right now. It's just doing enough to get the results they're in search of.
Hey, that's what the Tigers did, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's definitely a case of process versus product, as far as I'm concerned. Sometimes you make the most beautiful dinner and it looks delicious and it tastes absolutely horrible. Sometimes you make a plate of glop and it is delicious and elegant in its own way. In as far as the sports metaphors are concerned or the writing metaphors are concerned, you know, this is a situation where I think of it as a writer where you're looking at your outline and you're going, my God, how am I going to put this into any sort of coherent thought? And yet all of a sudden, when your fingers hit the keyboard, they start rocking and rolling, and you produce something that is adequate. And at least that, you know, it's because it's so early on. I guess I give them a little more credit than perhaps they deserve, but that's where I look at the product over the process here, and I'm going, okay, I'm seeing wins. Okay, I'm seeing, you know, aside from the god awful penalty kill, you know, the special teams are okay. You know, the goaltending has been excellent, to the point of heroics, and you know, like Devin said, it's just a matter of kind of survival. You know, these first 10 to 15 games of the season, especially with the quality of competition that the Red Wings have played and the quality of competition that is left to come before you know, that all important American Thanksgiving mark. And given the turnover in the roster, to me, that's what I look when I see the turnover in the roster and the turnover on the team. It's a team that is somehow holding it together with one screw about to fall off to rip the wing off the plane. But you know what? It's sticking the landing, and right now that's what matters.
I want to jump back to one thing you said there, George, just the god awful PK as you put it. And frankly, I kind of agree with that assessment.
It's the technical term.
It is a technical term, but it just hasn't been good enough. And I mean, at least in my opinion, I don't think it's a personnel issue. I think it's more of a strategy thing. It's just watching the game, watching how the players react and like the positions that they go to. They're in the right place as outlined by the strategy, but I don't think the strategy is the best approach to, I guess, limiting the quality chances against, right? There's just way too many cross-ice passes. The lanes are open, for that, which is, not ideal at all if you're a goalie or if you're trying to kill off a penalty. But between just the cross-ice lanes being there and the players on the power play having way too much time to make a decision, it's just too passive of a power play. And I'm sorry, too passive of a penalty kill. But like, you can't be like overly aggressive, because you're going to get out of your system real quick. You're going to be running around, and before you know it, it's going to be a 2-on-1 right in front of the net. But I do think the Red Wings could be a little more aggressive with their structure. I think that if they put a little bit more pressure on the flanks and kind of and close off those cross ice lanes, that's going to save them some heartburn from at least how they approach their penalty kill, because what they're doing right now just ain't working.
To some extent, it really is a matter of appearances, and if the sticks are in the shooting lanes and the passing lanes, if the bodies are moving, into those shooting lanes and those passing lanes, it's Swiss cheese right now. That's what it looks like, and it's what the result becomes, because for lack of a better term, you just don't see the players making the correct movements at the correct times. It's all herky jerky. There's no flow to it, and by flow I mean, you have to know when you're going to pressure a player and when you're going to fade off that player. You have to know when you're going to let go of one hand on your stick and put it into the passing lane, and when you really want to just keep both hands on the stick and make sure that you're there to stop the shot. That is the biggest concern for me. It's a matter of being precise. It's a matter of being just oppressive almost. I know that's a strange word to use, but to be there in such a way that you are when you are in that box, that 4-man box or the diamond, however it's shifting back and forth, that you're gonna put in some intimidation factor into your opponents, and you can do that a lot through your body language and a lot through your positioning. And I'm not seeing either of those things taking place.
I think that all of this kind of leads into, as you put it, George, the heroic efforts of their goalies. Because if they are playing this bend don't break style, they are leaving lanes open, they're not being very aggressive on the penalty kill. So much then falls on the goalies, and it's been primarily Alex Lyon and Cam Talbot to bail them out and be there to make those stops. And so far they have been a little leaky at times. I'm sure, Talbot would tell you that there's maybe one he'd want back or two, but every goal is going to tell you that. But at the end of the day, they both have done what they needed to do to help keep their team in the game. I mean, that 1-0 win against the Islanders, that's all Alex Lyon. He was as far as I'm concerned, he was the first, second, and third star of that game. And I guess my point with bringing that up is just, I feel like they've had to rely on their goalies a lot in the early going here. And it's one of the reasons why Ville Husso quickly found himself in Grand Rapids, because he played that first game and did not look like he could handle kind of being the last line of defense. Now I know there's more to it than just he didn't look good in that first game, so he got sent to GR, but I think there is something to be said for the fact that Talbot has looked good this season. Lyon has looked really good. And I think that if they're going to continue to play the way that they have played, at least in their own zone, they got to be able to rely on the guys in the crease. And luckily for them, they have been able to do that to start this season.
It does make you wonder, though, like, what's the approach going to be moving forward? I mean, even in the interim, like, I guess not the interim, but just the short term, right? You have Buffalo on Saturday and then Edmonton on Sunday. Both teams, especially Edmonton, but both teams can be a highly dangerous offensively. So you're going to need your goalies to bail you out, right? You're going to need Alex Lyon to stand on his head and be okay facing, quality chances against from passing lanes and being able to have that lateral movement to get square to the shooter, more often than he would probably like to. Same with Cam Talbot. I'm not sure how exactly they'll, split the starts, but yeah, this weekend's going to be a big test of this bend but don't break defense, and if the goalies can handle that. But it is, I don't know. I guess it is a little reassuring that the two goalies in Grand Rapids now, Husso and Sebastian Cossa, they're playing really well. Like, Husso had a shutout in his first and only start, and Costa's been outstanding there. And his save percentage is close to .950, 2-1. He has a shutout as well. Like, it would be great if Lyon and Talbot just ran with this and we didn't need to worry about goaltending, but at least there are reinforcements just in case.
Along those lines, when we talked about the process versus the product and the sustainability of it, especially going to 3 games over the course of four days and nights, and the quality of the opponents that we're talking about here, is this the time when you guys think that they should maybe get in Albert Johansson, for example, on defense? We've seen some very good play from players like Justin Hall, and we've seen some shaky shit go on, for lack of a better term. That was the biggest uproar on social media that I got tonight was why wasn't Johansson in the lineup? Why aren't they firing the coaches? Because the lineup isn't the way that I liked it. I guess that's where I look at this stretch ahead and I go, well, maybe it is a time to pull out all the stops and see what you can do. I mean, especially if we're talking about seeing the sustainability of, for example, Marco Kasper in the lineup over a long-term basis.
Shifting gears here real quick, guys. I want to hit on the power play. 2 for 4 tonight, but it didn't start out very pretty. The second period when the Red Wings started on the power play, they didn't register a shot on goal and almost gave up a shorty to Brendan Dillon during that stretch. But came back in the third period and notched 2 power play goals, and the power play looked a little bit better than what we've seen recently. I'm curious, what are you guys seeing out of the movement up there as far as the power play concerned? Because there's times where it looks like it's this team's finding it and finding their groove there, and then there's times where it's like everyone looks like they have no clue what's going on. Tony, I want to pick your brain on that one.
I mean, I said it last week, I'll say it again. They've had great puck movement. They've had great zone entries. Yeah, things got a little discombobulated early on, but they figured it out. I wrote about it earlier this week that the Red Wings power play is ready to break out. Ending the night 2 for 4, there's not much you can ask from them, to do better on the power play. It won them the game, and I think overall, as long as the first power play unit's out there, the Red Wings are a threat to score. That's exactly what you want to see. The Devils, they have a good penalty kill, and the Red Wings still scored 2 goals. They still generated some quality chances. Patrick Kane feeding Dylan Larkin for the tip-in He had all day up top to make that pass. He waited for that lane to clear. Dylan Larkin was wide open in front. Love to see it. And then the second goal with Patrick Kane just walking right down the middle, could not have asked for a better situation there. And I think Markstrom read it wrong. But still, a goal is a goal. And if you're going to give number 88 all day to, walk down the middle and fire home a wrist shot on the power play, great, we'll take it. So I frankly have no concerns about that. So, keep it up, and we're going to continue to see more and more power play goals after starting off, not scoring as many as we'd probably hope for.
I feel like just in general, the power play kind of just mirrors the team in general. Where they don't look great for large stretches of time, and then they have these stretches where they look super dangerous and really, really good. And somehow you put it all together, and the numbers basically reveal that they're doing good enough, basically. Um, I think it's a microcosm of their season so far. Just enough good looks to have positive results, basically. I think that to kind of hammer home George's phrase of process versus product right now, I think the results, the product of the power play, you can't be too upset with it, especially after a game like this, where, as you said, Tony, it won them the game. Now the process, definitely, I think there's still a lot of work to be done there, and that's kind of what we're saying about the team right now. The results are pretty darn good, but there's still a lot of work to be done, and I think you can say that across the board with this Red Wing team right now. I think that maybe one of the bigger concerns I have about their power play is, like you said there, Tony, as long as their top power plays on the ice, they're going to get chances. Well, typically you have two power play units, and that second power play unit is not nearly as dangerous. And maybe that is a personnel issue. The talent on that second unit is not anywhere near the talent on that first unit, but I think you're going to find a bit more success in the power play if you can roll out a second unit, if that first unit isn't able to get it done. But as things stand right now, it's not. I'm with you, Tony. I'm not really. The power play is not on the top of my list of things I'm concerned about right now. Something to keep an eye on, but right now, if your takeaway is that the power play is the issue, I think you need to rewatch the tape.
Deb, another topic I wanted to hit on you here with is, as you being our Griffins analyst and know all these guys very well, but Albert Johansson, he's just healthy scratch for the third straight game. Do you think it's justified, or do you want to see him inserted into the lineup more often?
I'm very conflicted about this because I'm somebody who generally agrees with Derek Lalonde's thought process of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you're winning games, don't mess with things. But I also think that this is a player that you drafted back in 2019. You made it very clear that you didn't want to risk losing him for nothing. You kind of have him on the roster because you intend to give him an opportunity to prove he's an NHL player. But he's played 2 out of 7 games, and in the 2 games he has played, he played less than 12 minutes. Me personally, I've been a big Albert Johansson guy for years at this point. So of course I'm a little upset that he's not playing more, and I think he should. And especially, at times where this team looks old and slow and kind of needs a bit of youth to maybe get them going again. There's this kid in the press box right now doing nothing. Why, what are we doing here? But also, he's not going to be the solution to all their problems. Far from it. I do think they need to figure out what their intentions are with Johansson. If they want to keep him and actually give him and believe he can be part of the long-term solution in Detroit, they got to play him. Yzerman talks all the time about how these guys got to play. If they're going to develop and become regular NHLers, they have to play. And that's typically why guys end up in Grand Rapids for long periods of time, because they're not going to play in Detroit. Well, now Johansson's in that fun spot where he can't go to Grand Rapids unless they want to put him on waivers. So as far as I'm concerned, play him. And if you don't like what you see, then you probably aren't going to be too upset if you waive him and lose him for nothing. But at least you can say you tried him. Um, I I guess the one thing where I hesitate on this is yes, don't fix what isn't broken, and also who are you taking out? Um, and how does what's the ripple effect on the lineup after you take that player out? I know a lot of people are kind of gunning for Eric Gustafsson's head right now, and I get it. But you replace Gustafsson with Johansson, and you gotta kind of patchwork the rest of your lineups because Gustafsson's on the power play, Johansson's not going to be on the power play, uh, and even just 5-on-5, they're going to play different minutes. So it's a tricky thing where I firmly believe he needs to play, but I'm not sure with how things are going right now how you pull. Otherwise, you're kind of just letting this kid waste away for nothing.
It is a question of the coaching tendency to say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. With the as you suggest, just the plain and simple need to get development going. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it is great for only so long before things start getting broken because you're not playing that player at all. And if I mean, I talk about players a lot in terms of their developmental runway, and it would be a lot different if he was 19 or 20 years old, and if he still had his waiver exempt status. We'd be talking about a player who, okay, yeah, you can put him in a couple more games, but then send him down to Grand Rapids. I mean, this is a completely different situation where, okay, you've invested X amount of years in now that he's 23, and you need to see what he can do. And that's where I look to these stretches when you get the 3 games in 4 nights like they have against with the Devils, and then now with Buffalo and with Edmonton. And every time I see a 3 games in 4 nights or a 4-6 or a 5-8, whatever it is, that it involves a bit of condensation of the schedule, I want to see some roster turnover to see what these other guys are going to produce. You don't have him on the roster unless he's able to contribute. And if he's not contribute, and then if like Devin said, in the end, if you really think that he's going to be better off in Grand Rapids, have the balls to waive him and see what happens. Because it's just not useful to keep going with Petrie and Hall and the rest of them, and to never find out what that extra player might give you. For example, because we're going to be talking about somebody else in that regard, in Marco Kasper. If the Wings hadn't brought him up, we might not have seen what he could bring to the team as well. So, Evan?
Well, the Red Wings are now undefeated in the Marco Kasper era. And that's 3-0 with Marco Kasper in the lineup. And obviously everyone's been calling for him to see more playing time in it. And I think he's been effective. I don't see a spot where I don't see a player that he should be sitting in front of. So, Tony, I want to ask you about him. What do you think about his play this last week? He got a little chippy tonight, which I also love to see too, is when the game did turn to a little more physical. But that's the kind of player that the Red Wings need, and it was good to see that kind of play.
For sure. And I think seeing him on the second line tonight, filling in for JT Compher, centering Vladimir Tarasenko and Patrick Kane, that's a big indictment on what the coaching staff thinks about him. So he's not up here playing 8 minutes a night. He played a significant amount of minutes tonight. He played in all situations for the Red Wings. And this is his 3rd game of the season, 4th game overall. So that says a lot about how the coaching staff thinks about him. And frankly, I do want to see him stick with the Red Wings beyond this injury that Tyler Mott's going through and through the flu bug that's going around the team. He's earned it. His playing style fits in perfectly, in my opinion, with Joe Veleno and Jonathan Berggren. I'm not calling them a 4th line because they're not a 4th line, but they're a fast, chippy, offensive line that can be deployed in sheltered situations. And yes, Kasper can play more meaningful minutes on special teams as well. But he brings something that that Mott didn't to that line with Leno and Berggren. Obviously, Berggren's an offensive first guy. He's a playmaker. He's going to generate the offense. But when he was out there with Leno and Mott, there was no one really to match his offensive IQ. Like both Veleno and Mott are sort of the first guy in, forechecker type. They just couldn't generate much. But Kasper can play that role, and he can generate offense, and he has the IQ to play well with Berggren. We saw that in the playoffs last year with Grand Rapids. Like those two together can be dangerous at the NHL level. And having Veleno or Rasmussen or whoever on the other wing as the first guy in, as the mucker to, get them the puck and cycle it and set up quality chances, that's going to work. It has worked. And it's at least it's clear to me that he should be sticking around as long as he continues to play his game and doesn't run into a wall at any point.
Yeah, Kasper 1844 tonight to play. Copp played 1340. What's going on with Andrew Copp? Is this the beginning of the end? And as far as him playing up or higher up in the lineup, George?
I don't know. I mean, I think between his immovable contract and just the fact that the coaches seem to have so much trust in him, I don't see Copp sort of going from number 2-3 center to number 4 all the time. But I do think that there is a bit of a natural progression there that we're going to see. I mean, it's the blunt bottom line in hockey that you've got to steal somebody's job to take a job. And just as Tony was talking about, maybe Tyler Mott not really having a place in the lineup if he were to return healthy in a short period of time. I think that more and more we've begun to see Copp with Rasmussen and with Fisher as that sort of identity third line. So it's almost you're not going to supplant him per se, but there's this natural progression going on here, and it's a good thing. Definitely, yeah. When the flu bug goes through the team, and once it gets through, they start feeling better. You bring Kasper back in the lineup. That's more of a question for me. I can certainly speak to the flu, guys. It absolutely sucks. My aunt and I have been sick for 3+ weeks with this virus, and I don't recommend it. So get your flu shots, everybody. But in any case, yeah, you want Kasper. You want Kasper to take his job in the long term. In the short term, it's going to be again, as we've been talking about so much of the rest of the team, it's going to be a little herky jerky. There are going to be some moments when you're going to see the coaching staff go, well, we can trust Copp and we know what Copp is going to do when he comes out there and plays that second line, sometimes shut down center role. But I think more and more we're going to see Kasper being thrown over the boards for just performance sake. That's where he's at.
Love a good meritocracy.
Amen to that.
What a concept, right? I think just for my piece, I think that I think Copp has one of those contracts that sets a timeline for the Red Wings. And what I mean by that is kind of like what you said there, George, with the natural progression of things. I think that Copp's contract, having the years that it does left on it, it sets a timeline of when players like Kasper should be in those prime roles. It sets a timeline of when you should be able to comfortably move on from guys like Andrew Copp and JT Compher. I mean, you never say never with things like this, but I don't think Copp and Compher were brought in to be part of the long-term solution. I think they were brought in to set the table for the long-term solution. And I think that that's what you're seeing with Kasper getting these minutes. I think that you are seeing Kasper get a look and have an honest chance at kind of announcing himself as the 2C. Because of ultimately that's kind of if the season ends and Kasper's the 2C and Comfer and Copp are down the lineup, I think you feel pretty good about that because that's kind of what you're hoping for going into the year. The Red Wings are not a team that's known to just throw players to the Wolves and give them those opportunities right away. You might have issues with that, you might not, but I think that's kind of what I'm getting at there with Copp and Comfer being timeline setters. They allow the Red Wings to take their time with players like Kasper, and they have placeholders basically that can hold down these roles until guys like Kasper and Danielson and whoever else down the line are able to assume those roles. It's just kind of fun and cool that Kasper's already looking like he's capable of doing it now. But I don't think Copp's going anywhere anytime soon. But the more that players like Kasper play in these roles and look good in these roles, the more likely Detroit is to feel comfortable about eventually moving on from the Copps of the world.
And for those who are questioning Steve Yzerman and his strategy and, the contracts he's dishing out, this is what's called succession planning. All right. Copp and Comfer are filling the roles until Kasper and Danielson can take them over. And they'll still be on their entry level contracts as those long-term deals for Copp and Comfer expire. So not a big deal. And by the way, Andrew Copp's second on the team in goals, so let's give him a little bit of credit. Right?
Yeah, he's not exactly the Fram oil filter that we're gonna ditch on the side of the highway if it starts spitting oil. He's still a useful player, and that is the thing that I will give credit for the succession planning, as you say. Is that, I mean, in his own weird way, this has been a early season where Copp has kind of found his identity on the team, whatever it might be, as somebody who can contribute, and that's not something we saw very much over his first 2 years. So that's my take on Copp as well.
I think in an ideal world, the Red Wings were. I don't think Andrew Copp's a second line center. I think he's the third line center, and I think that's a role that the Red Wings can now hope for, because I think originally when he was brought in, they were hoping to get a 2 center for the time being. But I'm actually shocked to see that Kasper was up in the lineup tonight, and I did love seeing it, and I think it is his time now. So I hope to continue to see that. One thing we did forget to mention tonight that we did all lose out on is that we were this close to a Christian Fischer Gordie Howe hat trick.
Oh,
he had the goal, he had the fight. Things got real chippy there at the end. And how great was that Rasmussen just dummying Jack Hughes in front of his parents at the LCA? I mean, that was great, and got right in his face there in the goal crease, and and I love finally seeing that fire from Rasmussen, because he's a player sometimes you worry about. With his size, he doesn't play enough of his physical edge, but sometimes it comes out, and when it does, it's usually something good's happening. So, guys, it's we got 2 more games heading into this weekend. The Sabres on Saturday and the Oilers on Sunday. Could be a fun one. The Sabres really struggling, and the Oilers are even too. So hopefully back next week that we're back to the Red Wings are succeeding talk. So really enjoyed that. So guys, great show today. Really appreciate it. One last time, let me remind everyone where you can find us. YouTube, we're at the Flying Octopod. You can also find us on Twitter at Flying Octopod, as well as Threads under that same name. iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We're going to keep going, guys, and just keep listening. We're really having fun doing this. And if you have any questions, hit us up on Twitter at Evans, at Cyber91, at George Malik, at Hockey with Devin, and at Tony Wolak. Love to hear from you guys, and if there's anything else you'd like to hear us comment on. But with that, guys, thanks again. Great show tonight. Great analysis as always, and we'll see you next week, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Flying Octopus Podcast. Follow us on YouTube at the Flying Octopus channel and Twitter at Flying Octopod.